Fantastic. We might get started. First of all, thank you all for coming to this session and joining us and the Schoolbox team at this wonderful meetup. I hope you found the keynote really enlightening and everything that James and Grant shared this morning. Today, I'm going to be presenting with my good colleague Lily over here, who, if you were in the room before, she was in here as well. And we also have a very special guest speaker who's going to be joining us up on stage. Lovely Catherine from Wesley College. So I'll give her a quick introduction a bit later. But in the interest of time, let's get things going because we have lunch straight after this and I want to be the first group out. Welcome to Academic Culture. What we're going to be doing today is discussing the concept of reflective practice and how we can make our curriculum more visible so that we can have really insightful discussions about our teaching, about our learning, and about our students. Most of us are all educators in the room or human development people in the room, and we know that this profession, as being in education, it moves fast, really, really fast, and it's really hard to find those moments to take a second, to pause, to think about, what we're doing with our practice. This session, what we're aiming to do is reframe how you see Schoolbox as a tool. So, what we're going to be doing today, let me use my clicker. First thing we're going to be doing is engaging in a little bit of reflective practice ourselves. We're going to be thinking about our own kind of practice, our own teaching. We're going to be considering what's the kind of evidence that we use for reflective practice. What are the things we need to see, collect, be in touch with so that we can ask those really critical questions. And finally, we're going to look at the Schoolbox tools that we have, that hopefully you're all using already, and reframe our thinking around them as tools and start to see them as tools we can use to engage in reflective practice. Are there any questions? Amazing. So I'm now going to hand over to Lily and we're going to do a quick activity.
Yeah, I'll take this one. Thank you. We're going to do a quick activity in reflective practice. I'd like you to imagine it's the end of the school year. What is one piece of evidence you would most want to see that tells you you've made a meaningful impact through your leadership or teaching this year? I'll give you a moment to think about that. Did that sound like you're in trouble? Sorry, former teacher coming out. Before you turn and talk, I want to say that one piece of evidence is what we're striving for. Today, let's explore how reflective practice helps us intentionally achieve impact by understanding our classrooms and our schools. And I'd love for you to share with your table neighbour about what that piece of evidence is for you.
All right, I can hear a lot of wonderful discussions happening, so I'm going to pull us all back together. Thank you so much. Hopefully you had a good opportunity to consider, what that kind of evidence is that you hope to collect to see the efficacy of your leadership, of your teaching. Reflective practice doesn't just happen at one level. It happens at multiple levels and at multiple times across the academic year. It can happen at an individual level, so when we're thinking about individual students or about our individual practice. There are questions we ask ourselves at each one of these levels. For instance, which one of my students require additional support or enrichment? How can I find that information out? We can reflect at a class level, or maybe at if any of our leaders in the room, looking at teachers who all teach the same year level. How are students engaging in class activities? What adjustments can I improve or make in my classroom to improve behaviour management? We can reflect at a cohort or a subject level, so taking another step back. We can think about from a subject for all of our Year 9 English students. What are some common learning gaps? What are things we're missing as a cohort? The big one that probably a lot of us ask, and a lot of what we experience in the education consulting space with Schoolbox, is around consistent assessment practices. Are all my students in Year 9 English having the same opportunity to demonstrate their understanding and knowledge of the curriculum? And then finally, taking another step back, we can reflect at that school strategic level. Not all of us might be, working at this level, but we'll be asking ourselves really important questions throughout the whole year. Things like, are resources effectively allocated to achieve our strategic goals? Do I need to move things around? Are we on track? Now, I'm not going to say that our Schoolbox tools are going to help you answer every one of those questions, but what we're trying to highlight and what we will demonstrate is how you can use these tools within Schoolbox as touch points to really, really quickly ask yourself some of these questions and then move on with your day. We want reflective practice to be part of your natural, organic processes. So what we're going to do now is go through some of these Schoolbox features and ask ourselves and look at some of the questions we might be considering when we're looking at these spaces. Lily.
Before we start diving into these features of Schoolbox that you can use as those pieces of evidence for your reflective practice, I'd just like to point out that even though this is not a workshop, you might like to follow along. So if anyone wants to open up their laptops and follow us along on your own school's instance, depending on your permissions, to see what this data looks like at your school, feel free to do that. First up, we have the unit planner, which is relatively new. So some of you may be using it, some of you may not. The unit planner is surfacing all of the text boxes on your unit pages, and it is updating live in either direction. If you change it on your unit page, it's already updated on your unit planner and vice versa. The unit planner provides an overview of how learning is planned and how it fits together. It allows you to see all of the curriculum planning for the course on one page and to check the sequencing of curriculum outcomes by unit order. You can also see the spread of learning activity types across the units. Some of the reflective questions that you might be able to answer by looking at your unit planner are: how do units of work fit together? Do students have the opportunity to connect and activate prior knowledge? Is there information or content missing that I could include?
Another feature, which isn't very new, but sometimes we forget it's there and it's totally all right, is the assessment calendar. Just show of hands, who regularly accesses this assessment calendar space? James, taking note, amazing. This assessment calendar is so powerful, and it's probably one of the first things I try and talk about as part of our consulting when we do any kind of LMS work. This assessment calendar is going to surface any learning activities that have been pushed out to a class. It can even pull in some of your calendar events. The reason why this is so powerful, you can't see it in the screenshot, but at the top there are filters. So I can filter down and go, just show me my Year 3 English classes, or just show me Year 7 HPE classes. What I'll then be able to do is really, really quickly see, as a head of curriculum or even just as a teacher, any staff member, I'll be able to see that distribution of learning activities, not just across time, but across those classes. Often when we visit this space, we ask ourselves questions like, and we mentioned this before, are we giving students multiple opportunities to demonstrate their knowledge and understanding? You can filter this by work type as well. So you could filter it down to summative assessment, and you go, ooh, we're only assessing them once. Maybe I should give them some more opportunities, maybe some more formative tasks. Another great use case, and this has come up before, when we're scheduling our summative or formative assessments or any learning activities, is making sure it's not clashing with other things that are happening within the school, such as NAPLAN or other standardised testing like PISA for any of our international schools. This assessment calendar view can help us make more informed decisions, not just about what is being assessed, but when it's being assessed as well.
And if you are following along, the next one is the course analytics page, which you can access from the course list in the three-dot menu next to your course name. The course analytics page shows us a variety of statistics for the classes that are using that course. And if you've used the same course for a few years, you might even have some comparable data between academic periods to inform you of how certain cohorts are managing with the same coursework as the previous cohorts. To unpack a little bit of the screenshots that you can see on the slide here, up the top we have the overall progress across the cohort for all of the learning activities, and then on the right hand side with those student profile images, it's basically positioning your outlier students as above standard or well below. The next one down is unit progress, allowing us to see how much of each unit has been completed across the cohort. And then these two box and whisker graphs are showing us rubric indicators and also the result distributions by each assessment. We can get some statistical values from those charts, such as the median and quartile values. Some of the reflective questions that you might be able to ask and hopefully answer when looking at the course analytics page include, are my students as a whole performing as I expected? We're almost through the term. Have students completed the work for the unit? We have a Year 9 moderation meeting coming up. Which student work samples should I ask for?
The next feature we're going to really quickly talk about is the class pastoral report, and there's actually two screenshots up there. One is the class pastoral report, but one is the class list. So far, we've been talking a lot about learning activities, feedback, and how we're visualising that. For me, curriculum is more than just the Australian achievement standards. It's more than just a list of objectives that we're wanting students to work towards. To me, curriculum is about, it encompasses what we do as teachers. One of the biggest focuses for us right now as educators and challenges is around student wellbeing. Being able to equip our teachers with access to spaces like this, and I'll go through it shortly, can really empower our teachers to make more informed decisions about their teaching, about how they're delivering their curriculum, how they're differentiating, how they're adjusting. Students grow and evolve throughout the year, so we can't expect that handover that happens at the start of the year to capture all of that information and, that be it. Teachers need to be regularly checking in with the data, checking in with their students, checking in with them themselves to make sure that their students are on track to meet curriculum outcomes. These two spaces are crucial to support that. These rely on using the Schoolbox pastoral care system, which is just phenomenal. The first screenshot up there is the class list, and I'm sure most of you are familiar with this. You go to your class page, three-dot menu, class list. You'll see a long list of your students who are timetabled, but next to it, if you are using the Schoolbox pastoral care module, you can enable flags on particular records. And that's completely adjustable by you as a school. So as a school, you can decide what is the most important information that I need my teachers to know about my students. Put a flag on those records. What that will then do is surface, as you can see there, the red one and the purple one, really quick insights into some of those records. So again, we don't want reflective practice to be onerous and to sit down, it's going to take an hour. We want to give teachers the tools to really, really quickly engage with their data, engage with their students, make sense of it so that they can inform their practice. The second screenshot on here is the class pastoral report. Sorry, just by show of hands, who is using the pastoral care module? Ooh, nice. Very cool. I hope we are all looking at using these class pastoral reports. You can generate reports within the pastoral care module, but again, we're trying to make this as easy as possible for teachers so they can engage in reflective practice. To access this module, again, class page, 3-dot menu, class pastoral report. The great thing about this report here is that it gives you the option to filter to specific work types, or not work types, pastoral types and subtypes. So that gives teachers that choice in choosing what they want to look at and particularly why they want to look at it. So they could be looking at behaviour patterns, they could be looking at NCCD records or any ILPs or adjustments. The questions that our teachers will be commonly asking themselves in these spaces are things like, which of my students have additional needs? Which of my students should I really be watching and differentiating for? And I know that seems a bit funny, like we should all know our students, but you get a new teacher to the school, you're a cover teacher, you have to, you get a new student in, or there's, mix-up of classes. Being able to access this information quickly to inform your practice is crucial. Another question you would ask yourself, and this is coming direct from experience, often as teachers we'll implement new strategies into our teaching. We'll recognise an issue. For me, it was behaviour management, so I introduced the classic peg chart. What ideally we want to be seeing teachers doing is partnering their strategies and their change in practice with these tools. So as a teacher, I could go after a week or 2 weeks or a month of my new behaviour management PEG strategy. Has there been a change in the pastoral care records? Has there been a change or decrease in behaviour issues occurring in my class? We want to really build that autonomy and empower our teachers to be able to have these really in-depth conversations with themselves so then they can have it with their peers and then with their leaders.
The next space we're looking at is the curriculum coverage report. This one can be accessed also from the course list and the 3-dot menu next to your course name. The curriculum coverage report shows where curriculum outcomes are being mapped across your instance. It is an amazing tool to see where things are, but we do acknowledge, of course, that things need to be mapped in your instance first. Could I get a quick show of hands of who is using curriculum codes and mapping them on their Schoolbox instances? So it's kind of new. I mentioned that the unit planner is new. The curriculum coverage report is newer. There's quite a few places that you can map curriculum across your instance: courses, units, learning activities, lesson plans, badges and learning moments. You're going to get the most granular data if you are mapping curriculum to those learning activities in particular. Once it is mapped, there we go, it's playing now. Once it is mapped, you can check individual or multiple courses and curricula at once. And in this example, we've just got one Year 9 course and we're checking achievement standard or something like that, but you can look at multiple courses. As an example, if we're finding a trend across the school with students being unaware of digital safety and ethical use of ICT, we can reflect on how this is considered as a cross-curricular priority. Is ethical use of ICT ingrained in various subjects for a given year level, or is it mostly housed in an elective that only some students see for half of the year? There's simply not enough time to teach every outcome to every student in every term, but the curriculum coverage report gives us an overall view of where the balance lies currently so that we can make the most informed decisions about what we are teaching and when.
Thank you, Lily. Amazing. I hope that gives you a good, really quick insight into some of the spaces within Schoolbox that hopefully you can take back to your teams and help them locate those spaces. But for now, I would like to invite the amazing Catherine White to the stage. She is from the lovely Wesley College, and she is their instructional learning designer. and she's going to be joining us today to talk about Wesley's journey towards reflective practice. So, can we please give Catherine a big, warm welcome to the stage?
Just need that. Thanks. All right. Thank you. You'll see I've changed the Schoolbox blue to the Wesley purple. We're a very purple school. My name's Catherine White. I'm an instructional learning designer at Wesley College. We're very privileged at Wesley to have an entire digital learning and practice team. I'm one of 5 people. We're all ex-teachers who work with our staff to help our staff and support our staff in embedding digital technologies into their classroom. I've been in this role for 5 years. I've got 17 years of teaching experience and experience as a teacher librarian. My methods are English and history, so finding myself in this sort of digital space is not where I thought I would be, but I do love it very much. My role specifically focuses a lot on working with staff to create authentic, effective and engaging teaching opportunities in the digital space. And a big part of what I'm presenting today is a big project that I've been working on and will continue to work on for the next, I'm not sure how many years. As long as I can stay employed, it'll be great. Just a little bit of background about the school so you can understand our context. We have 3 city campuses plus our regional campus in Clunes, which is for our Year 9 term experience. But we really operate as sort of a bunch of mini schools. So we have junior, middle and senior schools at 2 of our campuses and a junior and middle school at our Elstonwick campus. So we're sort of operating in lots of different sections. We have 450 teaching staff and close to 3,500 students. We're an IB school, so we run the primary years program at ECLC to 6. We run the MYP or middle years program 7 to 10. And then at 11 and 12, the students can choose from the diploma program or the VCE. We have one instance of Schoolbox, which we call WISE at our school, and that services all our campuses. So you can imagine it's actually quite a complex situation. We have 3 city campuses with 3 very different cultures, 3 different ways of doing things, but one instance of Schoolbox. So we've got quite a job on our hands in wrangling that. The first thing I'd like to sort of talk about is what does reflective practice look like at Wesley. I actually talk to our professional learning coaches. We have a professional learning coach at each campus who do a lot of this work with staff and professional learning, and particularly reflective practice is big. And this was their response of what it looks like. It's part of our collaborative planning sessions. It's part of our PPL, our personalised professional learning program that we run, that every member of teaching staff is involved in. It's embedded into regular meetings, and we embed reflection into sort of key stages of the year, obviously. For example, at the end of Year 12, when we get the results, there's a big reflective piece that happens there as well. I think it's also worth noting that reflective practice is also, as we know, very informal. It's often very messy. It happens organically, and we often require people to be quite vulnerable to be effective in their reflective practice. I think sometimes reflection in formal ways can be sort of a bit tokenistic. We can sort of tick a box and say, yes, we reflected, la la la, we fill out this box, we fill out the reflection. Sometimes the more effective reflection happens when we're sort of sitting down and talking about things. And some of these tools that I'm about to show you that we've already touched on have actually elicited some of those more informal reflections and been really effective. So the project that I'm focusing on, that I'm going to talk to you about today, is within our PYP, our primary years program, and it's looking at how we document and map our program of inquiry. Just to go back to the slides that Lily and Claire were talking about before, this is probably reflective practice at a school strategic level, at a cohort and subject level. So we're sort of really looking at that overarching reflection of what we're doing with the program of inquiry. And up here you can see some of the questions that our PYP coordinators, so I started this project with one of the PYP coordinators, the coordinator Sarah Ho at our St Kilda Road campus, and these were some of the questions that she was asking. We've since moved on to roll out this project with our Glen Waverley campus and our Elstonwick campus, and they were asking similar questions. Particularly, where are the gaps? We're trying to map the IB curriculum, obviously. We're also trying to map ACARA strands as well to what we're teaching. So there was an opportunity here to really get in and use some of these tools effectively. So this is sort of the story of what we had and then what we did. So we started with a series of files in Teams, and I've spoken to a few people already over the course of the day who've said, yeah, it's just a bunch of files in SharePoint, and we just sort of leave them all there in some folders and we hope for the best. And that's pretty much what we had. There was a structure to all our planning documentation for PYP in the back end of a team, but it kind of looked a little bit like that picture. It was just a pile of files. Our PYP coordinator had tried to link them together, and she had basically created a rod for her own back because she was trying to manage something in the vicinity of 48 different files that she had to update year on year to make this whole system of files work. And she wasn't really mapping things effectively because she really couldn't. She was trying her best. And so when I approached her to try something new, she was very open and very excited about trying something new. So what we did is we moved to the course and unit page structure within Schoolbox. We're not using the class pages. We're sort of just stopped at the course and unit sort of pages there. And we've moved all our planning documentation and started mapping within that space. This is what it looks like. I think sometimes it's really helpful when we're talking about these tools to sort of see how we've set it up. This is what works for us. This met a need for us. So we started with, and I might just say for context, our junior school teachers use Schoolbox for communication pages, but not much else. So their experience was limited in using the platform. They certainly hadn't done any of this course unit class page stuff that our 7 to 10 teachers had done. 7 to 12 teachers, sorry. So we started by creating a bit of a dashboard for the program of inquiry and then dividing it out into the year levels there. And each of those tiles goes to a course page that we've set up in the back end. Now, the primary teachers really like the colours and the buttons. It made them feel quite comfortable. So that was part of the change management process. Within each of those courses, again, we've surfaced it really clearly for the teachers, made it really easy to navigate. Each course page has 6 units. For those familiar with the IB, with the PYP, this all looks very familiar. And so each course page has those 6 transdisciplinary units sitting underneath. Within that, we utilise the course framework. Have I said that right? That's the course... James, where are you? Yeah, it's the course framework. Sorry, I just had a brain moment. To set up these units so that they specifically surface the information that we want to surface within the unit planner. And again, I can talk to people one-on-one a bit more and show you what it actually looks like, because this is just a very, very quick overview. So this is an example of what one of our unit pages looks like. And admittedly, it's not very exciting, but it's not designed to be engaging with students. It's designed to document and map our curriculum. And so you can see we've basically utilised a series of curriculum components which are set up to draw from different parts of the curriculum. So approaches to learning, learner profile, the unit overview, all that kind of stuff. We've also supplemented that with a series of text boxes where teachers can write in their lines of inquiry, their additional concepts, things that aren't part of the curriculum packages that are for that unit. We also obviously have the course builder on that page as well, and then we utilise the lesson plan as sort of the part 2. So what we've done here is we've done the overview of the unit, sits all within that unit page, and it doesn't look as great like that, but what it does produce, if you look at the unit planner, and I'm going to try and make this work. once you set up a unit plan, a unit page like that, you end up with a unit planner that looks like this. Excellent. Thank you very much. And it's huge. No, we don't have access. That's really unfortunate. I can tell you for a fact that it looks fabulous. Well, that's unfortunate because that was my big reveal. I will just talk to it and you can imagine it in your head. If you'd like to come up and have a look on my laptop, you're more than welcome. What it did for us is it highlights immediately the bits of the curriculum we haven't filled out. So those big empty boxes, we could see, oh my God, we actually haven't filled anything out there. The other thing it did was by mapping the curriculum using the packages that are created, I don't think you're going to get anywhere with it. You can try, valiantly so. No, that's okay. That's the curriculum coverage. No, can you go, is it okay to go back one? I've got the clicker. Yeah, great. There we go. What it allowed us to do was to visually see gaps really quickly. But what was perhaps more interesting was that in using the curriculum components, it made the teachers delve a lot more deeply into the nitty-gritty of the curriculum. And it's amazing how much we sort of breeze over, maybe not through anyone's, not sort of having a go at anyone, but we breeze over curriculum a little bit. And the example I'll use is the approaches to learning. So for anyone who knows about the IB, approaches to learning knows that they're quite, they can go into quite a granular sort of series of strands. And our teachers weren't really covering that. They were sort of going, oh yeah, it covers communication and then sort of petering out there. In doing this, oh, here we go, fabulous. There's those empty boxes I was telling you about. Very, very easy to see. This is editable from here. So once they fill it out for a whole year, they can go back the next year and just edit and fiddle around with it for the coming year and change things as they need. But with something like the ATLs, which can be quite a sort of, there's quite a lot of strands to consider, it actually made our teachers think more carefully about what they were actually teaching. And they actually entered into a lot of discussion about, well, if we're going to tick that box, we really need to make sure that we're actually teaching it. And so for our teachers, it became a real mark of, if we tick the box, it's a live document, it goes into the planner, we have to be able to back it up. There was no more of that sort of, I guess, vagary of going, yeah, we cover communication sort of in this way. So that was really interesting as part of this process to sort of see that. And we can get a real overview of the entire year very easily. We're continuing to work on this structure as our needs evolve and change, and this is sort of round 2 of this structure. We started with one unit page template and then quickly moved to add things and remove other things as it became necessary. So that is absolutely possible. You're not sort of locked in to one particular structure and then that's it. And we had teachers who were creating this from scratch to put in big A3 documents so they could stick it up on a wall and refer to it as an overview. And this is so much better. So much better, and it's taken a huge amount of work away, particularly from our PYP coordinators. The other one, which I will probably not show you, but has already been highlighted, is the curriculum coverage report, and this was the game changer for us. This is the reason we started on this project in the first place. So it's all very well to map things, but unless you can figure out where your gaps are, it's kind of... That's the crux of the situation. So for us, it was knowing where our gaps were, how often we were touching on particular curriculum strands, where we were maybe overdoing it and where we were not doing it enough at all. And of course, just the breadth of curriculum that we sort of need to cover in a very broad unit. Some of these units go for an entire year or they go for an entire term, and you're covering a whole range of ACARA curriculum strands as well as all the IB stuff. So we had a lot to fit into these spaces. This curriculum coverage report is really fantastic because it allows us to just really drill down and see where our gaps are at any given in any given course. We can compare two courses too, so we can look at, say, for example, year 3 and 4 together and see where we're hitting our curriculum and where we're perhaps not. And that has been really easy. Our teachers have found it really, really easy to use and very sort of intuitive. And like I said, that's been a bit of a game changer. Maybe I should come and work for Schoolbox. I'm saying very nice things. Also, and I think this is really important as part of reflective practice, it's a celebration also of what we have done. And so I think a lot of the time when we reflect, we often tend to focus on where our gaps are and where we're not doing a good job or not quite covering it or not quite getting there. But this, we've found generally with our staff, is a really fantastic celebration of, yes, look at this curriculum, look at this unit, look at this year that we have created for our Year 2 students. What fantastic learning is going on. So it's also a big celebration in that reflective piece as well. Hooray. So generally our reflections are, well, as you might imagine, but I'll say a few things about this project and some of the reflections that have come out of this project. The tool won't work if you don't have the structure that underpins it. So this wouldn't have worked for us if our PYP coordinator hadn't spent, I know she had a lot of files, but she'd spent a lot of time creating templates and structures for her staff to use in their planning. So there was a really strong understanding of what planning should look like already at the St Kilda Road campus before we launched into this. If that wasn't there, this would have been much harder to achieve. So getting your base, your foundation right before you go in to use a tool like this is really important. This will take a long time. Even just getting to that point has taken us about 2 years. It's taken us about a year of having conversations, of planning, of testing, of getting some teachers to pilot the unit to see, where the weak points are, to see what our templates should look like, and then rolling it out at the start of the year with all staff. It takes a long time. And then because Wesley is Wesley, we have to do it another 2 times over with other campuses. So it's going to take a long time. I'll probably be 105 by the time it's finished, but that's okay. Obviously, reflection is ongoing. It's an active process. The active nature of these documents and these tools means that it feels very alive. It's not just a document that sits in SharePoint somewhere that we sometimes refer to. It's something that teachers are using constantly and are reflecting on constantly, which is fantastic. I had to listen really carefully and actively. I'm not a primary-based educator. I had to learn a lot about planning in primary, which is a very interesting space to be in. And as I mentioned before, it's about celebrating success and not just about identifying your problems, although identifying issues is a big part. Identifying gaps is a big part. How are we going? Oh gosh, we're going early. Great. Brilliant. Quick game's a good game. I'd be more than happy to touch base with people or talk more about this particular project. As I said, I'm still in the thick of it, so I'm still working it out and still trying to make things work, and it's been a really interesting ride. Again, I'd be happy to show you in a bit more detail if you'd like to have a look at what we've done, or if you'd like to get in touch, I'd be happy to jump on a call at some stage and just give you a bit of a demo so it can maybe spark something or get things going at your school as well. Thank you for listening, and enjoy lunch.
Thank you so much, Catherine, and sorry about the slideshow. I was going to try and do something magical, but I will leave that right until the end as a bit of a Hail Mary. But I just wanted to say a huge thank you to everyone and to Catherine, especially for joining us today. I heard another room start clapping, so I feel like they might be done, so I want to get to lunch. But before I let you all out, I do just want to take a moment to quickly reflect on our reflective practice. Reflection, there's some key takeaways that I would love for you to consider and take away with you. The first is that reflection happens at different levels. At that individual, class, cohort, school, strategic level. Part of reflective practice is about knowing which questions to ask. You can have all the amazing tools and access to all the amazing data, but what this is going to come down to is knowing how to partner effective questioning with the right tools. Finally, the big one, there are different spaces within Schoolbox that can help you engage in this process. As Catherine highlighted with the unit planner and the curriculum coverage report, which I'll try and get up in a moment, these are amazing tools that we can use to inform our practice and inform how we are making the curriculum accessible to our students.